Hey guys, welcome to my channel. It's Passionate Kelsie. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make my River Dahlia crop top. Here it is. This is what it looks like. Here is the back. It is a lace-up corset like most of my tops. I do have a written pattern for this available on my website if you're interested, but let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what we're going to need for this tutorial is we're going to need a 5mm crochet hook. I'm using a Clover or More hook. You're also going to need some scissors. You're going to need a yarn needle of some kind. I always recommend the metal ones just because I think they're better than the plastic ones, but you can use whatever you have handy. And then you're also going to need some worsted weight yarn. I always suggest cotton for these summer crop tops, and I like to use Lily Sugar and Cream. I have 2 rolls here. These are 2.5 ounces. I will most likely use both of these, and I might even dip into a third. So starting this tutorial, just to let you know, I'm going to be making a size medium today. I'm going to have the other sizing information in the description. We're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing you need to do is you need to take your yarn and you need to make a slip knot. We're going to put the slip knot on our hook. We're going to tighten it up a little bit. And for the size medium, I'm going to chain 16. All right, so there's my chain of 16. Moving on, we are going to be making a triangle cup. I use this with a lot of my top tutorials, so if you have seen those, then you already know how to do this. What we're going to do is we're going to rotate the chain sideways, and we're going to be crocheting into the back hump of our chains. See this little bump back here? That is where we're going to be crocheting our first row into. So skipping this first chain right here, I'm going to be going through the back bump of my first stitch. I'm going to do a single crochet, and I'm going to just continue in the back bumps, doing single crochets all the way down the row until I get to the last stitch. Okay, I have 1 stitch left. I'm going to continue going through that back bump, and I am going to place 3 single crochets in the last stitch. So I just did 1. I'm going to continue in the same spot with my second, and I'm going to do a third one right in the same spot. And at this point, I would suggest putting a stitch marker into that second crochet that you did, so just this one right here. I'm not going to do that because I don't have a stitch marker handy right now, but that will be helpful, especially if you're a beginner to making tops. Now we are going to be doing a U shape. So we just went up this side. We did 3 in the top here, and now we are going to continue down the other side of our starting chain. So if you look at the top of this, it looks like regular stitches. So it is pretty easy to work into. So the next available spot I have is right here. I'm going to go through there, and while I am crocheting all the way down this side, I'm also going to be crocheting over my end, just so that I don't have to weave it in later. Okay, so I went all the way down into my last stitch. This is where I started. I went up this side. I did 3 in the top stitch, and then I worked in every stitch all the way back down the other side. And we're going to do that same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my work over like that. I'm going to start crocheting in my stitches, just single crochets all the way up until I get to the center of the 3 single crochets that we did in the last row. So the second one right here in the top. You may have a stitch marker there. Okay, so right here I have my 3 stitches that I put in the top of my last single crochet of round 1. And on row 2, what we're going to do is in the first one, we're just going to put 1 single crochet. In the second one, which is the middle stitch, we're going to do 3 single crochets in that spot. So I'm going to go through the top. I'm going to do 1 single crochet. I'm going to do another one in the same spot. Another one in the same spot. And that is our top 3. If you want, you can go ahead and move your stitch marker up 1 row to the middle stitch right here. Your second stitch in the 3 that we just did. And then I'm just going to continue down the other side with single crochets all the way to the end of the row. We are going to be repeating that row until we reach the correct number of rows for our size. I'm making a size medium, so I'm going to stop whenever I hit 13 rows. For the other sizing information, you can check the description. To start my next row, I'm just going to turn my work. I'm going to single crochet all the way up to the center stitch in the top. I'm going to do 3 single crochets in the center stitch, and then I will just continue single crocheting, work my way down all the way to the other side over here. I just finished that one, which was my 3rd row. And by the way, whenever you're counting rows, make sure you're counting from the center outwards, because every time we do a row, we go up and around. So that was 1 row. So we need to count from the center out to get an accurate number. So if you look at this, right here is my center line. I think it's a bit easier to see it from the back side, but basically where your yarn is coming out, that is the center line right there. And I'm going to count my rows from there outwards. So this is 1 row, this is 2 rows, and this is my 3rd row that I just finished. So that is 3 rows, because if you counted them all the way across, you would count 6, but we actually only have 3 here. So I'm going to go ahead and go do my 13 rows, and then I will meet you back here with a full cup. Alright guys, so here I am back with my cup. I've done my 13 rows, and this is what it's looking like. It doesn't lay very flat, but that's good because, you know, it'll fit around your bust. So if you are ahead of the game, you're going to know that you are actually going to make 2 of these. You need to do the same number of rows on both of them. So I did 13 rows on here. I'm going to do 13 rows for this one. The only difference is that on the first one, we went ahead and cut off our yarn with a little tail to weave in later. But on the second one, we're actually going to leave our yarn attached, because from here, we're going to be continuing on to make the bottom area of the top. I'm going to work with my second cup over here where we have the yarn still attached. And I'm going to put my hook in there. From here, we're going to be making a chain, and that is going to extend the side of your top, and that is going to be going under your armpit area, wrapping around your sides towards your back. So you can make this as long or as short as you want it to be. For me, I usually make it 10 stitches long, so I like to chain 10. Okay, there is my 10 chains. We're also going to need a turning chain, so I'm just going to go ahead and add 1 more. Now, I'm going to flip my work over so that I can work back on the chain that I just made. And I'm going to do those 10 stitches. These don't have to be in the back bump or anything. I'm just going into like the top of the chains as I regularly would. for a row of single crochets. Once you get past all those chains that you did to extend the side, we're just going to continue the stitches onto the cup. So we're going up this side and towards the top up here. Okay, so I have stopped one stitch before my center stitch, which is this one right here, the next stitch that I have to go into. And then this is where I'm going to grab my other cups so that I can connect them in the middle like this. First thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to make sure that my cups are facing the same way. So see how this has the back of the stitches facing me? I'm going to make sure that my other cup also has the back of the stitches facing me, just so that they're facing the same way when the top comes all together. We're going to want the tips of our cups to be joining, so those are the parts that I'm holding up for you to see. What we're going to do is we're going to single crochet the top 2 stitches together. So this is the top of my right cup. This stitch right here is the top of my left cup, and we're going to be single crocheting those 2 stitches together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hook, I'm going to go through the top stitch on this side first. I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and then I'm going to go through the top stitch on my other cup. I'm going to yarn over and pull through. Now I'll have 3 loops on my hook. From here, I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3. And I try to make this stitch as tight as possible. And then that will connect both of my cups for that row. We're going to continue all the way across the bottom. So I'm just going to keep going with my single crochets now that I'm on the second cup, down this side all the way to the end here. Okay, I just did my last single crochet, and this is my row. So I started over here, I went all the way across the bottoms, connected in the middle, and went all the way across this side. But I want to match up this row of single crochets with an extending row of single crochets on this side. So we're gonna have to do something that's called a foundationless single crochet to match up with the single crochets that we have over here. So you're gonna have to do the same number that you chained. So I chained 10. So I'm gonna have to do 10 foundationless single crochets on this side, and I'll show you guys how to do those. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna go back into that same hole where I just did a single crochet. I'm gonna yarn over, pull through, and then I'm gonna yarn over again and pull through 1. And that creates like a little chain for you. I'm gonna yarn over again, pull through both loops on my hook, and then that creates the single crochet look. So there's my first one. To do the next one, we are going to go through this bottom chain area. There's one loop, and then there's also a loop on the back for you to go through. If you can see that. We're gonna yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 1 to make the chain, yarn over, pull through 2 to make the single crochet. Okay, so there is 2. Now I'm gonna do the same thing over and over again. I'm gonna go through these 2 loops down here on the bottom, going to yarn over, pull through those, yarn over, pull through 1 to create the chain, yarn over, pull through 2 to create the single crochet. Okay. So I have 3 right now. I need to make 7 more so that I have 10 to match with the other side. Okay, so there is my 10 foundationless single crochets that I did. And I did those so that that would match up with the chain number that we did on the other side. So if you chained more or less than 10, make sure your number matches with the number that you chained. Okay. Now I'm gonna turn my work. We're going to work back this way, but we're also going to make a gap in the center. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work back across the number of stitches that are in my chain. So mine is 10. So I'm going to work across these 10 stitches. I'm just doing regular single crochets. After you've done that, we're going to crochet across a number of stitches on the cup. For the size medium, I need to do 16 stitches. If you're making another size, the number for that will be in the description. But for me, the number is 16 for the medium size. So I'm going to go ahead and do 16 single crochets. Okay, so I did the 16 single crochets. The next thing I need to do is make a chain, and that is going to go across this open area and it's going to connect to our cup on the other side. For the size medium, I need to chain 15. If you're making a different size, you can check the description for your chain amount, but for me, the size medium, I'm chaining 15. Alright, so after I've done those 15 chains, I need to find out how many stitches that I'm supposed to skip in the center. So for the size medium, that is going to be 23 stitches. If you're making a different size, make sure you check the description for your number. But for the medium, I am skipping 23. So I'm going to go ahead and count that. All right, so this right here where I'm putting my needle, that is my 23rd stitch. I'm skipping 23, so I need to single crochet into my next stitch right here. So I'll just take this out. And then I'm gonna crochet into my next stitch after skipping 23 in the middle. See? And then from here until we get to the end before our chain starts, that should be the same number that you did on the other side. So for me, if you remember, that was 16 stitches. Okay, perfect. That was 16 from here to here. And then I'm going to go ahead and crochet across my 10 stitches that extend at the sides. All right, so this is what we have just done. Started over here, we crocheted across, we did a chain, we skipped these stitches, and we continued the row on the other side all the way to the end. The next 3 rows are going to be really simple. We're just going to do regular rows of single crochet. So I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to crochet all the way across in every single stitch, including all of these chains, with just 1 single crochet all the way until I get to the end. So I'll just start my row, do my single crochets, and I'll meet you at the other end. Whenever I'm crocheting across my chains here, since we turned our work, the back of my chain is what's facing me. And whenever I'm working in these, I usually just like to go through the top 2 loops and crochet over those and then leave the bottom loop out like this. If you can see that, do it again. I just go over the top 2 and through this bottom hole here. So yeah, I'll just continue all the way across. Okay, so there is that row all finished up. And like I said, from here, I'm just gonna do 2 more rows of single crochet so that I have 3 total from the chains down. So this is just 1. I'm gonna do 2 more so that I have 3. And I'm assuming you guys can do rows of single crochet without me. So I'm just gonna go do those 2 more rows of single crochet, just 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way across, and then I will come back. All right, so here's how our top is looking after those 3 rows of single crochets. The next row we're going to be doing is alternating chain spaces and double crochets. So I'm going to start my row with a double crochet. Actually, I'm going to do a stacked single crochet, which is a stand-in for a double crochet at the beginning of a row. So I'm going to do a single crochet. I'm going to go through the front leg of that single crochet, and I'm going to do another single crochet on top of it, and this is going to count as a double crochet. I do have a full tutorial for a stacked single crochet if you didn't get that, but I'm going to be moving on. So I'm going to chain 1, I'm going to skip my next stitch, which is this one. I'm going to go into the 3rd one, and I'm going to do a regular double crochet. So I'll yarn over, go through, do a double crochet. Okay, and this is going to repeat throughout the row. So I'm just going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, go into the next one here and do a double crochet. Just like that. And this is just going to repeat all the way across until we get to the other end. All right, we're at the end of our row, and if we did everything perfectly, then it should end right on a double crochet. If you end and you have 1 stitch left, you can just put 2 double crochets right next to each other. It's not gonna make a big deal, but this is what that row looks like. all the way across. For the next 3 rows, we're just going to do 3 regular rows of single crochets into every stitch across. So I'll just turn my work like normal, and then I'll start back on my row with just regular single crochets. I'm going into the double crochets, and then when I get to a chain space, I'll just go through the entire hole because it's easier and quicker that way. I'm going to work those single crochets all the way across to the end, and then I'm going to do 2 more rows of single crochet so that I have 3 in total, and then I will come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I'm back. I did 3 more rows of single crochet after that row of double crochets with the chain 1 spaces, and on the next row I'm going to do a repeat of the double crochets with the chain 1 spaces. So I'm just going to turn my work. I'm going to start the same way I started the last one with a stacked single crochet. So I'll go in my first stitch, do a regular single crochet, and then I will go through the front leg of this single crochet, and I'll just do another one right on top of there. That counts as my first double crochet. So from here I'm going to chain 1, I'm going to skip a stitch, and I'm going to double crochet into the next spot, and then I'll chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next spot, and I'll repeat that all the way across until the other end. Okay, so that was the last stitch in the row. This is what it looks like. For the next few rows, I'm going to do a couple more rows of single crochets. I'm actually only going to do 2 rows instead of the 3 rows that we did here and here. And that's because whenever we do the single crochet border all the way around, that will be the 3rd row. So I'm actually going to only do 2 right now. I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to start doing my row of single crochets, just the same as we did it on the last one. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more rows of single crochet, this one and 1 more, 2 rows in total, and then that'll be it for the bottom of our top. We can move on to the neckline and then the border and then the straps. Okay, so I did those 2 rows of single crochets on the bottom. And I'm gonna cut my yarn there. By the way, if you want to make this top any longer, you can definitely add rows just anywhere down in this bottom section, and that will make it longer to cover more of your midriff area. But I'm gonna stop here. And then we're gonna be rotating our top so that we can start working on the neckline. I'm also going to flip it over because I want to start at the corner that has the yarn coming off of it, just because I know that that is the front of my top. I can see that because these stitches have the front facing out. And then whenever I add on the row for the collar, that will be the front of the row. So like I said, we're going to start crocheting on the top corner where we have our yarn coming off of our top. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a row of single crochet across the top neckline. So I am just going to take my yarn, I'm going to make a slip knot, I'm going to throw that on my hook and tighten it down a bit. I'm going to start at my top corner, and I'm going to be going across this way and doing single crochets. I'm going to go ahead and crochet over this strand of yarn while I'm here. So I'll start in the first stitch, do my single crochet, and then just continue down the line with single crochets until I get to the middle 2 stitches. Okay, I stopped right here. If you look, my next stitch is the top stitch of this cup, and it already has a single crochet through it right here because we single crocheted the 2 center stitches together on the row on the bottom. We're going to do the same thing for the row across the top. We're going to single crochet the middle 2 stitches together. So on this side where I'm at, I'm going to go through that center stitch, yarn over and pull through. I'm going to go to the other side, find the center stitch, which already has a stitch in it, if you see. I'm going to go through that, and pull through again, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3. Make that stitch as tight as you possibly can, and then that is it for the center area. I'm going to continue with my single crochets up the other side of the cup. Okay, so this is what my top looks like after that row. We started here, we went to the center, connected the 2 center stitches, and then we went up the other side. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn our work, and I'm going to start a row of double crochets with chain spaces. So I'm going to do a stacked single crochet in my first stitch, single crochet, go through the front leg, single crochet again, and that counts as a double crochet. I'm going to chain 1, I'm going to skip a stitch and double crochet into the next one. I'm going to chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet into the next one. I'm going to repeat this process until I have 11 double crochets in total, including this first one that counts as a double crochet. So right now I have 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to keep going until I have 11. Okay, so now I have 11 double crochets. And I have this space in the middle. 11 double crochets, that's how many you need to do for the medium. If you're making a different size, you will have a different amount of double crochets, so check the description for that information. From here, I'm going to chain 1. We're going to be skipping some stitches in the middle, but I need the same amount of double crochets that I have over here on the other side, which is 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So basically, I'm just going to figure out what stitch I need to go into by counting. So starting with the first stitch, that is our first double crochet. Skip this one, that's our second one. Skip 1, 3, skip 1, 4, skip 1, 5, skip 1, 6, skip 1, 7, skip 1, 8, skip 1, 9, skip 1, 10, skip 1, and 11 is right here. So this stitch is where I need to place my next double crochet. Yarn over, go through that stitch, do a double crochet, and then I'll just continue the pattern up this side, chaining and skipping one in between. Okay, so if I counted correctly, I should have 11 double crochets on both sides, which I do, so that's great. And then we skipped some in the middle. Now for the next row, I'm gonna do pretty much the same thing. I'm gonna turn my work. I'm gonna start another row of double crochets with chain ones in between. So I'm gonna start in my first stitch. I'm gonna do my stacked single crochet, which counts as a double crochet for my first stitch. There you go. I'm going to chain one, I'm going to skip this chain space, and then on top of my next double crochet is where I'm going to do another double crochet. And I'm going to keep doing that until I have just one double crochet left in the center. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Okay, so if you can see, I did a double crochet on top of every double crochet in this side, except I have one left. This one right here. I'm going to be skipping that one. I'm also going to skip the first one on the next side, and we're going to continue the stitch pattern after that. So I'm going to skip this one, and then I'll continue with my double crochets right here. So we're skipping the two in the center. Right. And make sure you have a chain one there as well. So I'm just going to continue with the double crochets, chain one in between, all the way into the end of the row. Okay, that is what that looks like. So that's all I'm going to do for the neckline. So from here, what we need to do is we need to start working on our border. So the border is going to go down the side here. It's going to go all the way around the bottom, all the way across here, around this corner, up this side, and it'll stop right here, and that is where we'll chain off, make our straps, and connect it in the round. So just right where I left off, the front of my top is already facing me, so I'm not going to turn it, I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees. And I'm going to start my border. My border is going to be made of single crochets. So to begin the border, I'm going to go through the top of this double crochet here. Do a single crochet. In the middle of the double crochet is where I need to do another single crochet, so I'll just go around the whole thing. Next single crochet is going to go in the joint area. And then this one is a double crochet, so I'll just go around the whole thing. Next, we just have single crochet rows, so those are pretty easy to single crochet into. Whenever you're going across the bottom, you should have these prominent holes at the end of every row that you can just easily single crochet right into there. Getting down to this inner corner area, you don't really have to do anything. just crochet down to the last spot. Turn your work and then continue with the single crochets across the top of your side extension piece. So it'll just look like that. Once you get to the corner area, we're going to have to do an increase to turn the work. And we're just going to be putting 3 single crochets into that corner spot. So I just did 1 right there. I'm going to do 2 and 3 all into the same hole at the corner. And that turned it 90 degrees. And we will continue with our border down the side. Once we get to the other corner, we're going to have to do 3 single crochets again. Okay, I'm in my corner stitch, so I'm going to do the 3 single crochets. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3. And that went ahead and turned my work. So I'll turn my work and we're going to do single crochets all the way across the bottom here to the other corner. All right, in the corner, we're going to do the 3 single crochets to turn our work. Continue the border across, do your 3 single crochets here, go across here. You don't need to do anything right here. Just continue these single crochets all the way up until you get to this. All right, once we made it all the way back around to the other side of the top, the next thing on our agenda is to make these straps. So from here, I'm going to start making a chain. And for the size medium, I need to chain about 200 chains, but this also depends on how wide you made your side piece. Because if you made it really wide, your straps will have to be shorter. If you made it like non-existent, your straps might need to be a little longer, but just know that it's generally around 200 chains for the straps, but you can test it out if you want. I am going to be doing 200 chains. Once I get done with that, I'll show you what to do next. Okay, we're back with our 200 chains. And what we need to do is we need to slip stitch back down this chain all the way back to where we started it. I'm going to be doing slip stitches because that is what I like to do. If you want to have a thicker strap, you can double back on this chain with either single crochets, half double crochets, or double crochets, and that is totally fine. But I'm going to be doing slip stitches, so I am going to just go through the top loop of this chain, yarn over, pull through, and pull through the loop on my hook as well. And I'm going to do this all the way down the chain. This is what that looks like. And once I get all the way back, I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I just finished slip stitching back down my entire row of chains. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to single crochet across our neckline and get to the other side so that we can make our other strap over there. I am going to do a single crochet into this first stitch, really the same stitch that we did our last single crochet of the border into. Okay. My next spot is the chain space, so I just went through that whole area. Go into the double crochet, next chain space, double crochet, and this will just go all the way across in every stitch. Okay, so I did my last single crochet into this chain space. That is what that row looks like. Started here, went across here, and at this point we need to start another chain for our other strap. Just make sure that it is the same number of chains that you did for your first strap. So my strap was 200 chains, so now I'm going to chain 200 again. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did for the other strap, which was slip stitches down it. If you did something else like single crochets or half double crochets, make sure you do that again. But, you know, we're just repeating the other strap. So I will do that and then I'll come back and we'll finish up. Okay, so I just finished my second strap, and at this point I have slip stitched into the last chain and I need to connect my work. I have this gap here, so what I'm going to do before I connect it in the round with my yarn needle is I'm going to do a single crochet right here into the side of like the last single crochet that I did, and that is just to fill that little gap area, so now my work kind of closes up nicely. But from here I'm going to clip off my yarn. I want a good amount of yarn to weave in the ends with. I'm going to grab my yarn needle, put my yarn on it, and then we're going to be doing a seamless joining method. So I'm going to take my yarn needle, see this loop where our first single crochet on the border was. I'm going to go under both loops like that, put my yarn through it, and then you can see these loops right here. I want to go down through the top there, and then I also want to go through the front of that single crochet. I'm going to pull that down, and as you tighten that up you'll notice that it creates another loop so that whenever you're looking at the side, the join is seamless. Can't tell where it is because they're all just loops running into each other. And then I will take this yarn, I'll put it towards the back, and then I'm going to weave it in. So I'm just going to run it under these single crochets down to this more solid single crochet area so that I have a good space to weave the end in completely. Whenever you're weaving in a yarn end, you want to go in 3 different directions. So I'm going to go up first, and then I'll go sideways, and then I'll go back down. And then if I have more yarn left, I'll probably go back up a little bit. All right, that is good enough, so I'm just going to snip off the rest of the yarn. And then that's it. We're done. The last thing we need to do is we need to lace up our straps through the sides here. So I'm going to flip my top so that the back is facing up. I'm going to take this side strap. That is going to cross over and it's going to go into the top corner of this. I just find that spot where we did the 3 single crochets in the corner. I slip my hook through there, grab the end of my strap, pull it through. I'm going to do the same thing with my other strap. The next part where we lace it up is actually pretty easy. We're just going to go through this double crochet hole because that's pretty close to being in the center of the side, for me at least. And then for the last spot, we're going to do the same thing that we did on the top corner. We're just going to find that hole where we did the 3 single crochets, put your hook through it, and pull your yarn through there. Okay, so that is how you lace up the back. Ties in a bow down here, and that is all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more tutorials from me in the future. If you're wanting to buy a top from me or something else that I crocheted myself, I sell everything that you see in my videos on my website, which is passioknitgoods.com. And that's about all I have for you today, so see you later.